Good evening. Welcome to the Firearms Radio Network presentation of the Reloading Podcast. Today, we should probably have an intervention. But since I'm leading the show, screw it. Anyway, I want to say hi to everybody. Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Also want to take time to thank Patriot Patch Company. That's patriotpatch.co. Check them out. All sorts of sweet patches. They're the bandwidth sponsor of the show. Not only do they have patches, they have signs and they have clothing and all sorts of fun stuff. So patriotpatch.co. Make sure you check them out. And I want to thank Sean and the gang over at Firearms Radio Network for giving us a place to hang out every week. So, Travis, unfortunately, might be able to stop in, but he's got some stuff going on, and Jason's out with the man flu, so that just leaves us three. And Jim's obviously lost the screw lock on his video camera because it keeps going. Looks like I'm operating the camera. So, anyway, yes, I'm wearing gloves because it's a balmy 43 or 44 degrees in the garage right now. Good news, water's nice and cold. So, currently outside it's 8-9 degrees.
I don't miss that.
So,
I think it's in the 60s down here.
Yep.
Balmy.
Yeah, but it's also probably steamy too.
No, actually, it's been raining its butt off all week. So
when it's June and July and your balls are stuck to your leg because it's 110 with 300% humidity, I'm not going to care. Because it won't be that bad here. And that's why I live here, not there.
Sweat makes a good lubricant.
Oh, that's enough of that. God, we're going to get an X rating on that one.
Wow, I'm not going there. No. No, actually, it doesn't. It waters down your powder. Oh.
That's why I have an air conditioner in my reloading room now.
It's a needed thing, especially when you've got that much humidity.
Mm-hmm.
So, Phil, what you been up to?
Well, first thing I've been doing is I've been working on this AR pistol lower. I actually got a folding stock adapter to throw on it, something I'm going to play with and see if it ends up being something that I want to keep in long-term durability testing for my own podcast. Other than that, I trimmed a snot ton of 5.56 brass, and I finally bowed to the common opinion that I was probably pushing my luck on those 357 Magnum hand loads, and I tore them down and dialed it back a half grain.
Good job.
I mean, and here's the killer of it. I hate to mess with a load once I find a really accurate one, and that was really accurate.
Right.
But I kept finding, like, some people were saying, oh, well, you can go even hotter than that. I was like, no, I don't think so. But then I was finding just as many people saying, that's a lot of H110.
Yep.
And I'm forced to admit that H110 has a reputation, deserved or otherwise, that it makes like really phenomenal velocity and really awesome accuracy right up to the 10th of grain that blows your gun up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, I just don't want to push my luck.
Yeah.
I kind of like this Ruger. I'd like to keep it together. So I tore them down. I dialed them down to 15.5 grains underneath the 158, which is still hot enough.
Yeah. So now when we're talking snot load, are we talking like old man shuffling around with a hanky in his pocket snot load? Are we talking like a toddler snot load? Because that's a whole different variation here. You know,
we're talking like a private that just walked out of the CS tear gas chamber snot load.
Oh, nice.
Anybody that's enlisted knows what I'm referring to.
I did it 3 times.
You're a glutton for punishment.
No, I didn't. I have enlisted in 3 branches of the military.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
The cool part about CS tear gas, though, is that I swear they should bottle that stuff up and sell it, because it will cure bronchitis faster than anything on earth. Bronchitis, sinus infection, the cruds, a sniffle, a cold, flu, anything. Everything in your lungs comes out afterwards,
Nice.
including the lining.
Well, you don't really need that at that point.
Yeah. Guess my point is, if you got like a little bit of crud and lung butter, CS, it will clean you out. Hurts a little though.
I'm sure. So, Jim, what you been up to?
Well, I am making mistakes is what I'm making. Clicking on things I shouldn't be clicking on.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, anyway, and I just closed the show notes out.
Whoops.
Yeah, anyway, no, what I've been working on, if I can do this while I'm talking, chew gum and do strange things at the same time. Walk and chew gum at the same time. What I've been working on is my reloading bench. Tonight, I actually got a couple more shelf brackets up. And my wife, leave it to my wife to notice that one of them was an off color. Should have been was segregated with all the ones that are the gray color.
Yeah.
So I put 2 up. One's got to come down.
Oops.
Yeah. And well, I got to replace it with a white one. But anyway, no, I made a little progress through the week. I've found some floor covering that I wanted to put on my workbench.
Mm-hmm.
Bought some adhesive for that. I started putting some shelves up. I've got one shelf up, screwed together and all that. The nice thing is it's perfectly level and nothing should roll off left or right. And if it rolls off forward, well, then I've got some bent brackets. Might have to do something like put up a piece of an angle or something on the front edge of the wooden shelf. But that's something else we'll deal with later on. Besides that, I don't put round things on a shelf if I can help it.
It's a good idea.
So do you think you're going to beat my dad to having your bench done?
I'm not in a contest with you, Carl. I hope you hear me, you bum. I'm not going to compete with you.
By the way, he was on his way back from a meeting hanging with one of the local pro-gun hunt organizations, and he happened to be listening to the show after we had signed off, and he was just catch up on the YouTube. He was listening to it, and when he got to that point where I inserted that and you popped a fuse, he said he almost drove off the road. He was laughing so hard.
Oh, it's a shame. We'll have to try harder, Carl.
See, look, don't ever let him tell you the apple fell far from the tree, because I know where I got it from.
Yeah, well, it's all in fun. But anyway, no, what we're talking about is an inside joke in the Reloading Podcast group. You guys already know what it is, but for those that aren't a member of that group, Carl Rabelais, Phil's father, put down some timbers in his yard. He cleared some soil out, and he started a shed from scratch. And now the competition is supposedly between him and I as to who gets the first round loaded off of the reloading bench. My bench is 80% done. It's inside of a garage. So I've got under a roof and structure. And Carl's got to build his. Well, Carl might well go ahead and build it. And he might well be first. I don't know. I don't really mind one way or the other. But, I could throw if I wanted to hurry up and throw my press on. Well, right now, like I just mentioned, I don't have a floor covering on the top of my bench. I don't have any edge trim on my bench. I'm hoping this is the last bench I build. I want my bench to be decent and attractive. It's not a piece of furniture, but at the same time, I want something I can be proud of. And so, yeah, I'm going to say, and this is not to entice you into hurrying, Carl, but I would say it's going to be a safe bet. I'll have my press set up soon. And if I do, I'll load one round of 40 S&W just for spite, so I can say I got mine first. Good on you, Carl, you bum.
Just for that, I might help him move his current bench on top of the timbers, just so he can say, mine's set up right now.
Well, if you do, then you win. But it's not a competition. I told you that.
I know. But I couldn't help but poke a little fun at you.
Sure. You do anyway. You do every time, you bum. You even say things that I didn't say.
You give it back.
Uh-huh.
In spades.
Mm. Yeah, so the guys in the chat are talking about whether my 15.5 grains of H110 is too much or not enough.
Well, the thing is, too, if it's giving you accuracy, number one, that's the absolute most important criteria a reloader has to go by. Number two, the second part of this situation is driving your car at 55 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour, 70 on the interstate is legal. Okay, yeah, you can go out on the interstate and do 145. But, and I'm not talking about having an accident or bashing into somebody, but you're going to wear your car out. If you drive that gun at 1,200 feet per second, as opposed to 1,450 feet per second, you're going to wear that gun out that much faster.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, too, you're going to develop a flinch. You start creating a ear-splitting, loud and boomer, muzzle blasting summer gun. If you keep shooting that, you're going to develop a flinch, and you can't miss them fast enough to kill them. And you use that gun as a carry gun, so it's like you practice with that. You're making your practice ammo most likely, and if that's what you're going to do, then you're going to have a flinch from that. And when the time comes and then the smelly stuff hits the rotating, oscillating, wind-moving machine, you're going to miss. You're going to flinch and miss, and it's not going to be fun.
Yeah. I dialed it back more in the interest of long-term longevity of the handgun, which even I think deep down, I don't think that Ruger would be too terribly hurt at the load I was running. But better safe than sorry.
Phil, find some way to get a chronograph. That's the next tool you really should buy for your tools. Inventory.
It's on the shopping list.
Yeah, well, put it at the top, buddy.
It is at the top of the shopping list.
Excellent decision. Excellent decision. I commend you.
It's just waiting for a family vacation to be over and done with before.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I got to buy a generator. I got to buy a 10,000 watt generator. And I mean, a 13.5. 13.5 startup surge machine and go clear up to 10. That way I can run the house. And don't think that isn't on the list. And she says it's ahead of the reloading bench.
Well, having a generator backup, especially in your area, is actually really important because you get a summer thunderstorm. Is your power coming to the house above or below ground?
Both. From the pole, it's below ground.
What's that?
From the pole, it is below ground.
Okay, but everything else is above ground.
Absolutely.
So there's a really good chance during one of those nice thunderstorms you could lose power. You should probably make that generator your first priority. And not that I'm trying to, help Carl out in any way, but I'm just saying that if I was choosing, I would make the generator hookup as a backup first priority.
We've had 2 hurricanes here, and we've had small power failures during both.
Yep.
And you guys are right.
So
we won't tell anyone.
Nobody ever watches this.
No. Huh. Well, we got 15, 20 guys in it, 20 folks in it.
They listen to y'all. They tune me out.
Currently 30 watching, but we do have almost 1,100 subscribers. So
yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Okay, we got 2 things in the chat I want to address, if you don't mind. Jim Madaw says, Jim, the machinist toolmaker and you starting to show through. And then Paul Nelson says he disagrees that Ruger is built for it. I agree with both of those gentlemen, but the point is, driving your car at 90 miles an hour is going to make your car wear out a good bit faster than 55. I don't care. I don't care what you do. Driving an M1 Abrams at 70 miles an hour and the machine's capable of it, the machine's going to wear out a lot faster than at cruising speed 45.
Can I just say, though, that the last time I was at the range, actually, I think I might have told you all this last time, I was shooting some of those light-loaded 38s out of that 4-inch barrel through 7. And the first one I shot, I thought I had a squib. It had so little recoil, and it was so freaking quiet. I literally like popped the cylinder open and looked, from the back of the gun down the barrel to make sure I didn't have a bullet lodge in the barrel.
That's funny.
Yeah. After that, it was just hilarious because I could sit there and just, thump, 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 and it barely made any noise.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, compared to 16 grains of H110,
Right.
everything's a powder puff after that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Jared, no, I don't own a stock and generator company. I wish I did. But
yeah.
What I do own is Jim's Fault. So last week,
What'd you do? Oh, go ahead, Mike. What'd you do this week?
Last week for the Cartridge Corner, Jim talked about 35 Remington, which I've kind of, had an interest in a little bit. What he specifically talked about shooting that out of was an old firearm that had a twisted magazine tube, and it was a pump action. Well, lo and behold, look what I got. So this, and I just went to the Remington Historical site and ran the serial number. This is a 1914 production year, Model 14 from Remington in 35 Remington. So, one of the cool things, and I don't know if I'll get it to focus or not, we'll try, is that right there. Oh, just for a second.
That looks like a cartridge head.
I don't know if it was or not.
No, I mean, what I mean is a piece of brass pressed into it and so on and so forth, embossed with a head stamp.
Yeah. So Remington UMC 35 Rem is what it says on that little brass medallion. So, but yeah, it's kind of funny because I saw this posted the very next day at a guns for sale site that I peruse, and didn't have a price on it, so I reached out and contacted the guy and asked him, and I only paid $250 for this little beauty. So
congratulations, Michael, you got yourself a gem.
Thank you. And in case anybody's wondering what those screws are for on the side of the receiver, that is where they originally had the scope mount. And the gentleman that I got it from does have the scope mount, but I didn't deem it worth the investment because I don't plan on shooting this at really long distances. So I didn't really think that putting glass on it would be productive, especially at what he wanted for the scope mount. So, and because it's the other thing in reading about it is the scope mount necessarily wasn't always, it wasn't necessarily always a, I guess the most stable. So there was always some concern about whether it would continue to hold zero or not. So, if I was ever to put a scope on this, because it's not collector grade, I would probably do what a lot of people do, which is just have a gunsmith drill and tap it. But that doesn't mean I'm not looking out for a scope mount. If I come across one on a good enough deal, I may just do that. So, but yeah, so that's kind of all that. I don't know if that scope mount was a factory design or not. I'm guessing probably not, because 1914 optics really weren't a big thing. So, but yeah, otherwise in really good shape. So, it's seen use over the years, but I don't know. I mean, you can still see where some of the finishes, the receiver's actually in pretty good shape, finish wise. So the barrel's about average. There's a little bit of surface rust underneath the sight on the rear, and that's normal, given the fact that it's probably one of the things that was never cleaned. So, but yeah, really impressed with it. So it's just one of those. It really is one of those kind of a once in a lifetime thing. Jim was talking about it, and I have this affinity for kind of older, eclectic firearms, shall we say. And lo and behold, just happened to see that the next day, got a hold of the person, and happened to have some time that I've been saving some money for buying a gun. So, and just happened to have the money. So. But
Well,
yeah.
Congratulations, Mikey. I tell you what, I think you got yourself a real gem right there.
Thank you.
A Twisted Tube, I've only seen one other one in up close and in person, shall we say. And that was at on my next door neighbor up in Pennsylvania, where I lived in Port Allegheny, Pennsylvania. And like I said last week, that particular cartridge is famous for in the big woods in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Don't mind me. I'm working on the still working on the show notes, folks.
So there was only 125,000 Model 14 and 14 and a half raid. Excuse me. They were initially chambered in 25, 30, 32, and then 35 was soon added. So the 13-14 Remington catalog offered them in 6 grades. 14A standard grade, 22-inch barrel and pistol grip stock for $20. 14C special grade for $35. 14D peerless grade for $55. 14E expert grade for $70. 14F premier grade for $105, and 14R carbine with 18.5-inch barrel, straight grip stock, and saddle ring for $18. Then, so the first year of production was 1912. The second year in 1913 is when they added the 14.5, and the 14.5 was chambered for 3840 WCF or 4440 WCF. So the 14.5 came in both the barrel or the rifle and carbine. So, but yeah. So when I ran the serial number on it, it was in the early part of 1914 that it was built, and this was a John Peterson design. So, pretty cool. It is the oldest firearm I own now. Previous was my Orchard's pocket pistol, but and definitely a cool thing. So, yeah. So, ooh, Carl's got 3 141s. Nice. The 141 is the one that Remington replaced the 14 with. So, they made some modifications and improvements. So, it was kind of cool. So, that's what I did. So now I've got to find some 35 rem dies, and I've got to find some brass. I'm not gonna buy factory ammo because factory ammo is too dang expensive.
But you can buy factory brass.
Right. Yeah, I haven't even started looking for anything yet. I just got this Sunday.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, it was nice talking to you, by the way.
Yeah, it was. And I found out why they closed down the highway. They had 131 car pileup.
Ow.
So, yeah, unfortunately, one fatality. People were just driving stupid. So,
Okay.
they just forget it's snow and forget you can go from, clear visibility to literally 2 feet in a matter of seconds with blowing and drifting snow.
Yep.
And that's what happened. So, I was talking to I ran up to Appleton. It's about 2 hours north of here, and that's where I met the guy, and then I went to Shields Sporting Goods because I get a chance to get to there every once in a while, and I was glad I was at Shields because if I would have turned around and headed back right away, I'd have been in the middle of that mess. So anyway, I did want to take a look at one thing. I got this in the mail, so I got to look at
What
this.
is that? What is that funny looking thing?
Well, it's from Reading, so I'm guessing.
That sounds like it might be fancy.
Guessing it's a brand new Reading catalog.
Yay!
Which it is.
Yep, I got mine too.
Yes. Master 100 die sets now have a card by size button. Ooh, fun. So, lots of good stuff in this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to go through it now. I just wanted to open it. So.
Yeah, well, Reading doesn't make any junk.
Nope. You know, to be honest, it's kind of like ammunition now, unless you buy the super cheap stuff. There really isn't anything junk in reloading anymore.
Yep. And you and I are partly responsible for that.
Right.
By you and I mean you, the listeners, and I, as in us podcasters, and even the internet itself is responsible. Forums, Facebook, people discuss things. Oh my God, that ammunition, I bought it from so-and-so, made by John Smith Ammunition Factory Company Incorporated. That stuff is junk. I had 16 misfires out of a box of 50. Everybody knows not to buy John Smith ammunition no more.
Right.
And same thing happens with other stuff besides reloading equipment. Optics. Yeah. Vortex. Look what Vortex is trying their best to unseat Night Force as a top contender.
Yep.
And people are buying Vortex because they found out that the product is a little less expensive, but it's just as good.
And the warranty's better. Well,
whatever the case may be.
I don't know if it is anymore. I think Night Force has kind of done like everybody else in the game where they stepped up and realized, we better get serious about our warranty. But this is how serious Vortex is. There's two companies in the firearms industry that just have a, oh my God, blow you away warranty. Okay. Vortex is one, High Point is the other. High Point Firearms. If you have the serial number intact on your firearm and it gets destroyed in a house fire, you send them the serial number, they will build you an entirely new handgun or carbine with that same serial number and ship it back to you. Well, I don't know if they use the same serial number. That's an FFL deal and ATF.
I don't think they do, but the point
I don't think they can. But
if you could produce that serial number, you're good to go.
Right. They will verify the serial number and they will make you another one. That is straight from the company, and there's quite a few stories of them doing that. So, Vortex, if you send them any part of the product back, they will warranty it. There is at the Shields, there was a pair of binoculars that the guy lived in Northern California, and that's all they found of them. Sent them back to Vortex, and Vortex sent them a brand new one.
I'm sorry? What do you mean that's all they found of him?
Not of him, of the binoculars.
They found what?
It was all melted, and there was like
house fire.
House fire. So he's fine. Okay. But yeah, he lost his house in the Northern California. So,
well, that's pretty good of Vortex.
So,
like you said, to blow you away a warranty.
Yep. So.
Yeah, if you accidentally shoot your optics with your 357, you're good to go.
Mm-hmm. You run it over with your truck because it fell off, you're good to go. So, and Vortex is awesome glass, but honestly, if you have the money, there is better out there. So,
well, the second part of that is if you have the eyes to use it, then it's worth the money.
Yeah. I mean, if you have the vision to be able to use it, so.
Phil's the youngest one of us, and it's like he should still have his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Can't hear anything, but I still have my eyesight at least.
Okay.
All right.
You know what I mean.
Hmm?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Vortex has definitely stepped up. It's really stepped into the market and really made a difference. You know, obviously there's the top tier stuff, you know, especially Schmidt and Bender, and then there's a couple others. So, but yeah, especially for the money you pay for the Vortex, the quality is amazing. So, but yeah, I mean, just kind of, it was fun. One of the cool things about Shields is they've got their reloading shelves set up, and then right over off the right next to the reloading shelves, they've got a TV with a Jim Scouten talking about reloading on a loop, where he's doing the reloading demonstration. So as people are walking by, they can see the you know, the TV going, and then they get attracted just like bugs to a light, and they start watching, and so. But yeah, so that was fun. It's fun to get out and take a look at everything. And nice thing is now I know I've got a really backup powder supply if I need so. So because they actually had a pretty decent stock and really good pricing on it. So, but yeah, so that was fun. But yeah, that's kind of all the weekend. And in the meantime, where'd it go? Ba, ba, ba. Well, you're no fun.
What are you looking for, Mikey?
The sound effect.
Oh.
But it decided it wanted to be not fun, so.
Pew, pew, pew.
Pew, 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 pew. What? Pew what? What stinks? Oh, Phil's trying to tell us, give us a lead-in for the cartridge corner. How's that, Mike? Is that a bad enough segue?
There you go.
Thank you.
Just in case you missed it the first time.
Thank you, I did. Anyway, cartridge this week I selected is the good old 3040 Krag. I actually carried that rifle in boot camp.
Well, that's because boot camp was in the late 1800s, so that was the frontline service rifle at that time.
Not quite. I went to boot camp in 1971, you bitch. Anyway, no, my rifle, the rifles we had were deactivated 3040 Krag rifles.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the overview of the cartridge. I'm going to give you a quick overview, and then there's a whole lot here. If Mike wants to put it in the show notes,
always will.
I'm going to put a paragraph out, and then that's it. I'm going to let you guys read the rest in the show notes. The 3040 Krag, also called the 30 US or 30 Army, was a cartridge developed in the early 1890s to provide the U.S. Armed Forces with a smokeless powder cartridge suited for use with modern small-bore repeating rifles to be selected in the 1892 small arms trials. Since the cartridge, it was replacing, somebody can't write. The cartridge, since the cartridge it was replacing was a 4570 Government, the round was considered to be small bore at the time. The design selected ultimately was the Krag Jorgensen, formerly adopted as the M1892 Springfield. It was also used in the M1893 and later on in Gatling guns. It's a rimmed cartridge. It's shaped a little bit like a 3030, except it's a little bit more taper on it. It has more of a wide body and a more steep shoulder at the neck. I'll read one paragraph out of the history and development, and then I'm going to quit because there's about 2 pages of text here.
Oh, I'm sure.
Though the Army although the U.S. Navy and the Marine Corps had adopted limited numbers of smokeless powder and bolt-action rifles, the 3040 was the first cartridge adopted by the U.S. Army that was designed from the outset for smokeless powder. After brief experimentation with a 230 grain bullet loading, the 30 Army loading was standardized in 1894 using a 220 grain metal jacketed round nose bullet with 40 grains of nitrocellulose powder. The loading developed a maximum velocity of 2,000 feet per second in the 30-inch, 30-inch barrel of the Craig rifle, and 1,960 feet per second in the 22-inch barrel of the Craig carbine. We must have been carrying the carbines because I would remember a long barrel like that. That's it. That's it. Sorry to make it so short, but there's a lot of good information in here, guys.
Yeah.
If you're really interested, go after it.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And the 3040 was definitely kind of the beginning of the, I guess you could say, high pressure cartridges. So.
Yep. It was made with the ammunition originally was made with nitrocellulose, which is nitric acid and cotton mixed in chemically controlled in mixtures, ratios.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is, we still use nitrocellulose in double base powders to this very day.
Yeah.
And my chemistry knowledge is starting to show. My lack of chemical knowledge is starting to show through because I know there's a second component, and I forget what the second component is in double base powders.
It's probably a good thing that we're not sharing that. So Jared said, "Isn't that what the Rough Riders used?" Yeah.
Exactly. They did.
1898. That's what they had was the 3040 Craig.
1898.
That's what I said.
I thought I heard 17 come out of there.
Oh shit! If they had it in 1798, just imagine what we'd have done. Right. So, but yeah. So they're still talking about optics and stuff in the chat too. So, but yeah, there's definitely lots of good optic options out there. So, anyway, on to the questions for the night.
We got some good ones.
Yeah. All right. So this is from Michael via Gmail. Hello, gentlemen. Wait a minute. Who's he writing to?
Hell of
right. Oh, my wife's home. Dogs are letting me know. Hello, gentlemen. I'm getting ready to start loading for the wife's BG-38. Is there really much advantage to working up a ladder load for short-barreled revolver like a BG-38? I ladder load everything else, but I'm not sure if the short barrel will have enough accuracy to make it worthwhile. Your knowledgeable opinion would be appreciated.
Who's knowledgeable?
I don't know. So, seriously though, it's one of those rabbit hole questions. How deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go? How far are you going to shoot it?
Exactly.
Jerry Michalik shot a stub nosed out to what, 800 yards and hit a balloon. So, I don't quote me on the distance, but he loves doing balloon tricks for long distance, and he took a snubby and shot it out there. So,
Jerry also took a 9mm and shot it at 1,000 yards upside down at a steel target. Shot it upside down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the sight's pointing towards the ground.
Yep.
And he fired it at a steel target at 1,000 yards with a balloon mounted on it.
Ding, ding, ding.
And he popped the balloon.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I actually think this is a very simple question for a totally different reason.
Okay.
Sure.
Nothing to do with accuracy.
Right.
But from a standpoint of pure procedure, you ought to be, quote, ladder loading everything.
Yeah.
You should always start at your minimum load and work your way up. Because, I mean, when loading, 38 Special for my wife's snub nose before it became my backup gun, let's say I probably should have done more testing of that load before I produced a bunch of it and figured out that it was probably about 0.2 of a grain short on powder from what it should have been. It shot fine, but I wasn't getting good obturation of the brass. I was getting tons of unburnt powder mucking up the gun all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of those things where there's a lot of reasons to ladder load a cartridge that have nothing to do with accuracy, just to make sure you're getting like proper cycling of a semi-auto action, proper obturation of the brass, full burn on the powder. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, even before we talk about accuracy, there's lots of reasons to ladder load a cartridge, from the start load up to however far up the ladder you feel comfortable going. But that way you see how that cartridge reacts in your gun, because a little bit tighter or looser of a barrel, a little bit tighter or looser of or a little bit more or less of a gap between the force cone and the face of the chamber, or the face of the cylinder, that load that is a minimum spec cartridge per that reloading manual, it might actually not behave properly in your gun. You might need to come up a few tenths of a grain of powder because of your specific gun.
There's a second reason, Phil.
Mm-hmm.
The more time you spend with your gun, the more you get to know your gun. To know your gun is to shoot your gun.
And to love your gun.
And to shoot your gun is to know your gun. Like Mikey says, and it shows your gun love.
Yeah, but I will agree. I will personally say that I always get irritated at the idea, and not that the listener was saying this, but I get irritated at the idea that snub nose revolvers can't be accurate just because I can't shoot them accurately. I know people who can.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that there's probably a pretty wide margin for where you load that cartridge and get acceptable accuracy, and you're going to make most of your bones just learning to squeeze the trigger smoothly.
It is a known fact. It is an absolutely hardcore known Class A fact that all firearms are more accurate than the shooter that uses them.
Yep. But
unless you get into guys like Rob Latham and Brian Enos and stuff like that, or even Michalek or Bob Munden. I mean, those guys, they shot their gun. They knew their gun. They were as accurate as the gun.
Yeah, but
generally speaking, like at Snubby, this Mr. Michael has that gun is going to be more accurate than him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but I guess I can prove it.
But I guess that's my thought. You should ladder load regardless,
right?
Even if like you're not looking for peak one hole accuracy, you should ladder load it as a function of basic procedure. Start at the bottom, work your way up. It's the same thing we say every single time. There are no shortcuts when it comes to reloading properly.
Mm-hmm.
Or there are shortcuts, but they always end in broken guns and loss of fingers.
Yeah.
So just leave all those alone.
Yep. Yeah, definitely spend some time on load development.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to find you're probably going to have a couple of loads that you're reasonably accurate with. So, number 2, Craig sent via email. Question about 38 Special 357 reloading. So he shoots revolvers and lever actions with 38 and 357. Any tips on thoughts on differences or similarities and thoughts for reloading for both? Any tips on one or the other or both? Obviously, the barrel lengths have velocity effects and maybe govern if the powder gets all burnt or not. Similar question regarding 30 carbine. He's got an M1 and a Blackhawk. That's right. Blackhawks do come in a 30 carbine. Thanks. Love the show. Excuse me.
I do believe the gentleman was referring to the fact that I think he's saying he has an M1 carbine, 30 caliber.
Yep.
And the Blackhawk chambered in the same cartridge.
Yeah.
At first I took it to mean he wanted a 30 caliber carbine and an M1 Garand.
Yeah. No.
I took it to mean that. I think I was wrong.
So.
But yeah, same thing with loading a revolver and a lever action in 38 or 37. I don't know, boys. There's a lot of opinion on. I mean, there's a lot of opinion out there that goes either way.
Mm-hmm. I guess the suggestion I'm going to start with is load development. Obviously you can't use rifle pressures in your handgun. As a general thought. Yes, you probably can, but should you? No. So, start with your pistol loads and play around in your rifle and see how they do. find a pistol load and see if it works. If it doesn't, then keep trying pistol loads that work in both. Eventually, you're going to find a load that'll work in both.
That's exactly what I do. Is whatever I load for my revolver, that gets fed into the carbine.
Mm-hmm.
I guess here's my question, though, because it's something that I'm going to wind up crossing over eventually with this 10.5-inch AR I'm building. Have either one of y'all like actually done the experiment to see if what's what I'm looking for here? Like to really try to tailor the same round for a rifle and a pistol barrel. You know what I'm saying? Like I say it because it's the same question I've butted up against with 5.56, and I've seen a lot of opinion either way, and I have not seen any really hard facts that I can reproduce. But there's a lot of people that say all the powder burns in the first 4 inches. It doesn't matter. You're going to get more pressure buildup the longer the barrel, but it's not an issue of powder burn. But then when you see a big old fireball coming out the end of a barrel, you start to think to yourself, wouldn't that be unburned powder? Some people say that's not unburned powder. It's just expanding, escaping gases. I don't know. I'm curious.
The closest I've came to doing what you asked in your question, Phil, is I got lucky and loaded up the same exact ammunition for my Mossberg Predator. It's a carbine in 5.56. It takes the AR magazines, and my Savage Model 12. They both like the same ammunition. I didn't say they fire one whole groups. I said they both like. We're talking 3/4 inch, 7/8 of an inch. Both rifles are shooting roughly the same level of accuracy. I got really lucky. Now, the point of impact is different because of the shorter barrel on the Predator.
Right. I haven't yet because my pistol still needs an upper. So when I get it done, then I will. But Paul Nelson in the chat said that for when you're talking about that, he starts for the pistol. He starts 3% below max.
3 grains, not percent.
No.
Oh, okay. He did say that. That was the last line. Sorry, I was reading from the top down.
Yep. So.
And to throw a quick one out and a shout out to Jared. He says he can't shoot handguns for anything. Well, it takes practice, Jared. That's a simple answer. Lots of it.
Lots.
Yep, lots of it.
And I tell that to every relatively new shooter. Do not beat yourselves up about accuracy with a handgun. It takes time to develop.
Mm-hmm.
My father, and he, when I admitted this, he crowed on me all day long. I admit in public, my father can outshoot me with a handgun. He is good at shooting handguns.
He's got more experience.
Yeah. Well, yes, and I can never catch up to him, unfortunately.
That's why we love it.
But I will also say this. Put a rifle in both of our hands, and I'll make that old man work for his dinner. I can shoot a rifle, but
it's the eyes. It's all in the eyes.
Not even so much that. It's more like I spent so many more years shooting rifles than handguns. I mean, I don't know. It's a little sidebar. I tell everybody don't get upset about having more trouble shooting handguns accurately. It's a different skill set. And it takes time to learn.
Yep.
Phil, you just corroborated everything we said. It takes time, but you're talking about before that, where you have years of practice.
Mm-hmm.
Practice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that old saying, practice makes perfect.
Yeah. And I
practicing bad habits, then
I hear what Paul Nelson's saying in the chat, and I'm gonna respectfully disagree. And that is meant with no condescension at all, because Paul Nelson knows a lot more. He knows a lot about reloading, a god awful lot. But I've shot some starting loads out of certain data sets that were hot enough to convince me that if I'd have started 3% below max, I might have run into problems. So I can never bring myself to do anything with a brand new cartridge except start at the bottom.
Yeah.
I haven't blown a gun up yet, so it's working for me.
All right.
Can't type tonight either.
Yeah, you'll get that.
Hmm.
Excuse me.
I hear years of practice helps with that.
That too. Smart ass.
Dougie just posted what I was thinking in my head, and I didn't remember exactly how it went. Practice makes permanent. So make sure you don't learn it the wrong way. So, Rusty put a poll up in our Loading Podcast group. Lead-free Barnes bullets in 6.5 Creedmoor. What would you prefer for hunting mule deer? Light and fast or heavy and slow? Solid bullets tend to need more velocity to expand properly and also seem to retain their weight better after impact. I'm going to load all three options and see what my rifle likes to try and judge the impact energy. So he posted 3 weights, which didn't make it into the notes.
No, they didn't. But I had an answer in my head and I forgot to plug the weights in. But anyway, it's 3 Barnes bullets for the 6.5 Creedmoor. And I wanted to take and throw my opinion out there, which I'm known to do. And Rusty, I would say for hunting an animal with a light cartridge like the 6.5, I know. It's not a light cartridge, Jim. It's a 6.5. Yeah. Anyway, the point is, it's a smaller caliber than 30-06 or 308. So okay, so I'm gonna rest my case. My point is, go with the heavier bullet because muleys are not like whitetail. Whitetail, you can knock them down with a 150 grain bullet from 30-30. But the point is, you want something a little heavier that's going to sink itself into the boiler room and disable and stop the animal right now. Yes, the lighter bullets will kill the animal eventually. My point is, remember, we're hunting with ethics. We want to stop and we want to create as much bodily tissue damage as we can immediately to stop the boiler room from working so the animal drops immediately. That's my point on ethics. Mike, did you want those bullet weights in the notes?
I've got them. So
okay.
Does anybody know more about Barnes bullets than I do? Do they give like a recommended velocity range at which they work in most effectively? I can't remember what bullet manufacturer it is, but I can recall in the back of my head seeing at least one bullet manufacturer that says like we recommend you shoot this bullet at approximately this velocity range. I don't know. I go back to the idea that every bullet is built with a certain balance of structure and malleability and willingness to mushroom and to deform. And I just think to myself, I'm like, if he's already coming out and saying these bullets need a fair bit more velocity than standard lead-based bullets to expand properly, I almost wonder if at what point that comes into the conversation. Like if these solid bullets are going to require more velocity, should we lean him more towards a lighter bullet, get more velocity out of the cartridge? But I don't discount what Jim's saying either. I'm just thinking, at what velocity you have to get this bullet to hit a target to do what it's supposed to do.
I think we'd have to go to the manufacturer's websites to do that.
When they're looking at listing just the bullet itself, they do not. So I suspect if you start looking up load data, it will. But in just listing the bullets on their page, they do not list a minimum velocity you need to achieve.
Oh.
So at least on the LRX. Let's see about the TTSX.
Although the one thing I totally glanced
They give
over
you a twist rate, but not a minimum feet per second. So, and the other one gave a twist rate also. So.
Please go ahead, Phil. You were saying?
I was just thinking. I totally glanced over. I mean, I went right into terminal ballistics and totally glanced over the idea that figure out what your barrel likes first. Because if your barrel likes really heavy bullets and it patterns the light ones like a shotgun, it kind of becomes a moot point of how much more percent better are the lightweight bullets.
Mm-hmm.
And each target, it doesn't matter.
Well, I do believe our listener will find that out as he reloads and works his ladder load magic, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
it's rusty. Rusty. Yeah.
He probably ought to try what a friend of mine did to test terminal ballistics on his ammunition. He gets he made friends with a butcher, and he'll get a like a hawk or a pork shoulder or something. Something's being tossed out. He'll whack that with whatever he's loaded up recently.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that told me that 77 Grand Sierra Match Kings and a 5.56 are hand grenades.
But you see, that's just it. It's a lighter jacket than a hunting bullet.
Yeah.
That's why they're so explosive.
So, yeah. So the next one seems to just be a bar fight question. Dave posted in the reloading room. Hornady one shot or Redding Imperial sizing wax. That's a bar fight. You guys can fight amongst yourself on that one.
Redding.
So, yeah, that's definitely a bar fight.
And our last question for the night, Joey posted it in Reloading Podcast Group, and he's asking, what's the best book to consult with for loading 45 long Colt? That actually a misnomer. It's actually 45 Colt. But anyway, he's asking, is Lyman, he says, Lyman, Hornady, and Nosler aren't very helpful. I honestly don't know where to start. There has to be a load difference from a 45 Colt handgun and a Winchester Cowboy action rifle, right? I'm loading for the rifle only.
I honestly kind of wonder what exactly he's talking about, because, I mean, the Hornady manual has 45 Colt load data specific to the revolver and to a Ruger or a TC.
Cowboy action shooting is done with very quick shots, very light recoil, and very fast. They shoot at big targets. You know, I'm talking huge gongs. And for the carbine, I'd go with the lighter load. That's all.
Yeah,
whatever light velocity, and whatever the rifle likes in the way of accuracy.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, the Hornady manual has data specific to. Hang on a second.
Do they have CAS shooting? Do they have CAS loads?
Nothing specific to cowboy shooting. Nothing that I've seen. Hang on a second. 45 Colt rifle specific. These loads can be safely used in a Marlin 1894S or Winchester Model 94 rifles produced in 45 Colt. Both of these rifles have actions far stronger than the older firearms listed above. So these are made for like more modern reproduction firearms. But I don't know. I mean, Hornady has data in the pistol and the rifle section for that caliber. But if you're shooting cowboy action, you're not trying to make a certain power factor or anything. I don't know why you wouldn't just use the pistol load. I mean, maybe start higher up to make sure you get enough oomph to clear the barrel, but...
So I don't know what Lyman book he was looking in, but I have the 49th right in front of me.
Right.
On page 305, 45 Colt rifle data. Test specifications for the velocity. Firearm used, Winchester Model 94. And then we go to page 389, which is the 45 Colt handgun. So, I don't know if he just saw the 45 Colt and he was looking for long Colt or what, but yes, Lyman 49th does have separate listings for rifle and for handgun for the 45 Colt.
And also Hornady, I think this is the 9th edition that I have, but I can't imagine the newer one wouldn't have the same thing. I mean, there's 45 Colt data in the rifle and the pistol chapters. So I don't know. Define for us what helpful is, because maybe he's looking for something more specific than what we're able to provide.
Could be.
Okay, well, Joey, hopefully Joey will hear this and he'll flesh out his question because
Yeah.
it's his basic question seems to be there has to be a load difference from a 45 long Colt handgun and the Winchester Cowboy Action Rifle, right? Question mark.
Uh-huh.
Well, I would say whoever said, whichever one of you gentlemen said, use the same ammo. I would have to say that's pretty much it. As long as they shoot well, as long as it shoots well enough to satisfy the requirements for cowboy action shooting.
So
Well,
here's the.
Sorry, Mike.
Well, I was going to say, here's what Lyman says about that. Powder is favored for the 45 Colt pistol loads will also work with the rifle, although the longer 16-inch barrel may work better with slower burning powder. So,
I guess at the same time, my only concern, my only cautionary note would be, I don't know a ton about cowboy action shooting, but everything I've been able to glean, it seems like those guys kind of load their ammo about as light as they can get away with.
Yes.
I would be very leery of loading absolute minimum spec ammo for a pistol into a rifle just in case you wind up with a bullet stuck in a bore. So you might need to do a little bit of independent testing and make sure that the load you load for your pistol does reliably cycle and clear the barrel on that rifle. But that said, both Lyman and Hornady offer rifle and pistol loads in that caliber.
Well, let's get a little bit more specific. Are the loads similar in the data you gentlemen are looking at on the Lyman book, Mike, and on the Hornady book, Phil?
let me look.
Of course, Hornady makes this a pain in the butt because they've got the rifle and the pistol sections at like totally opposite ends of the book.
It's not my fault you have short fingers.
Pain in the butt.
So 225 jacketed HP. For pistol, they say N320, 231 unique, SR7 D625. Power pistol's the best selection. You're talking anywhere from, well, then they've got True Blue N340, AA number 5, HS6, and Blue Dot. Talking anywhere from 7.2 grains to, sorry, 7.2 grams to 11.7 grains. As far as powder, for minimums, you're, I lost that page.
Well, Mike, let me ask you this then, bud. Let's just pick one powder, and it's my favorite, unique. Do they list similar loads of unique in both the handgun and the long gun chapter or segments?
Okay, for the same thing, 8.3 in the rifle and 8.0 in the pistol for minimums.
And centering on the 255 grain lead bullets for the two, unique, I'm seeing 5.4 to 7.5 grains on the rifle, and same bullet weight, 4.6 to 7 on the pistol. So, I mean, there's a difference probably dictated by the max pressure, but I mean, for some of the faster powers like Tight Group, it's showing 4.5 grains minimum, 5.6 max, and the exact same load data for the same bullet in the pistol. So, I mean, it's a little different, but it's close. The powder selections are pretty similar.
So it's not identical, but it is similar.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking like your minimum and maximum charges are slightly different. Probably your minimum being a little higher to make sure you get out of the barrel on the rifle, and your maximum being lower on the pistol due to a difference in maybe ultimate strength. But they're similar. There's enough overlap that it doesn't seem like a reason you couldn't find one load that both tolerate at least. Whether it's optimal for both or not, that'd be an experiment.
Hopefully we made the cowboy action shooters happy tonight.
So actually with Lyman, it's literally the same powder selections for all the way.
Wow.
So so the unique for the rifle, it's 8.3 and 10.8. For the pistol, it's 8.0 and 9.0.
Similar. Not the same, but similar.
Mm-hmm. So your max is where your big difference is.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and on the Hornady data, the minimums are within a couple of tenths of each other, but the minimums are different between the rifle and pistol, at least in the data I've got.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still like the biggest variance I think is a half grain, which is a fair bit, but it's not like 2 grains of powder difference or anything crazy.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So it's out there. And Paul said the Lyman 50th also has both of them in there.
I think we found Joey. I might be wrong. M4813 posted in the chat. Yes, 45 Colt. I think I might have meant.
No, that's not.
Okay, I'm wrong.
Nope, that's not. So
Okay.
I know who M4813 is in real life, and that's not. So.
Okay, good enough.
Yep. All right. So yeah, but yeah, with especially with Cowboy Action, because the idea is to get the shots out as fast as possible. We've got a couple of one of the admins for Reloading Room is a Cowboy Action shooter, and then I've spent some time talking to some others and stuff too. But yeah, the idea is to keep power down, keep the recoil down, get the shots out fast. So
less recoil equals more repeatability. Sooner you get back on target.
Yep, less dealing with flipperosity. That's a Trevor Furlot word. So. All right. So, gang, brings us to the end of another fun episode. Shoot those emails to reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. Send us a text or leave us a voicemail, 608-467-0308. Hit us up at the Reloading Podcast page or join the group on Facebook. If you have questions you want answered on the show, if you have a question you need answered right away, head over to the Reloading Room on Facebook. Use the search feature. Join the Reloading Room anyway. It's a good place. But make sure you follow the rules, because the admins over there are dealing with a lot of different people, and we have there's some strict rules in place, and we have to have those rules. Most people who spend time on Facebook know that Facebook's really not gun friendly, and they're looking for any reason to shut gun pages down. So
they already disabled us once in the last few days, over the weekend.
Yeah, that was a surprise Sunday morning.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, the thing is, I wanted to say about those emails, that's the exact reason why the show is delayed, because I had signed into the email account without Mike's prior knowledge. I had signed into the email account, and I was actually bringing emails over into the show notes, and that's why I couldn't get back in time, because I'd forgotten I'd signed out of everything, and I had to sign back into Hangouts.
There's a joke there.
I apologize to the chat room, and I apologize to the listeners.
There's a joke there about being technologically challenged. I'll leave it alone, though.
It's a rough crowd.
There it is.
I think Phil's number one. Yay, Phil.
I gave Hookem a one-finger salute a little earlier today.
That was so
friendly
funny.
One, too. A one-finger salute. Friendly one. See, that's one finger.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, it is. So another great night in the chat. Appreciate everybody's feedback and input. We love having the knowledge. We love having the questions. So, and the nice thing is when you go to YouTube and you watch the videos, the chat shows up. So as people are posting, as the time's going along, it shows up. So, just grateful for everybody who continues to come and hang out with us live, and grateful for everybody who continues to download and listen. So, thanks everybody. And I want to thank the Patreons. I can't thank them enough for everything that they do. So, and help with helping out the show. So everyone have a great night. And on that note, keep your brass shiny.
Keep your powder dry.
Squeeze, don't yank that trigger.
I had to skip over myself trying to cover for Jason. Damn it.
You ever remember he changed his tagline?
Yeah, Jace, he changed his tagline.
I don't.
What's your tagline, Phil? You close the show tonight. What's your tagline?
Buy it cheap and stack it deep.
Good night, all.
Good night, everyone.